What is up, everybody? My name is Steven. I am the founder of EngageFamilyGaming.com and also the host of CCGs for Beginners. And so, this is MTG Arena. It's MTG Arena Thursday over on twitch.tv/EngageFamilyGaming. This is where I do my streaming. And what we're going to do here is I have a whole bunch of packs of Innistrad Midnight Hunt. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start cracking them open. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go card by card as they come up. At least until it starts getting a little redundant, especially as they are new. And I'm going to talk about the card from like a new player / beginner perspective. So the idea here is this is going to be a video that you'll be able to watch. I'm going to put it on demand on my CCGs for Beginners YouTube channel. And I'll cut out all the redundant parts. And you'll be able to kind of take a look at it and kind of get an idea of what Innistrad Midnight Hunt is all about from a beginner perspective and kind of where you can go. So let's just get right into it. Pack number 1. So the first thing you need to know about MTG Arena is it tells you when the cards are new. If it's the first time you have seen a card, it highlights it. I dig that. Certainly makes things a little bit easier. So let's just go through them right now. This is different than buying a physical pack. Physical packs give you more cards. Here, you get 5 commons, 2 uncommons, and then either a mythic or a rare. I'm going to save that towards the end. It also counts up on this wild card tracker. So what'll happen is, there are 6 like pips on this dial. And so every pack you get, will tick up on one of these. So this has 6, and this has also 6. And so as you go, you are earning more. You're earning wild cards. So here we go. Let's just start with the commons. First is Homestead. What's great is this is highlighting one of the new mechanics, or one of the returning mechanics, rather. So Homestead Courage. It's a sorcery. It costs 1 white. And what it does, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature that you control, and it gains vigilance until the end of the turn. And then it has a flashback cost of 1. So what flashback means, more or less, and you can see it right in the text here, you may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. So what that really means is, for this card, is you kind of get 2 of them. Like, you draw a Homestead Courage. What this means is, in essence, you have 2 that you can cast subsequent turns, theoretically even the same turn if you wanted. I think this card is going to put in some work, especially in like limited formats. I don't know if it's good enough to do the work in Constructed or anything like that, but it's certainly it is a very efficient card for what it does. Novice Occultist. Here we go. 1 and a black for a 1/2. When Novice Occultist dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Very straightforward. When it dies, it dies. And you get the advantage of drawing a card. And with black, normally when you draw cards, you pay life to do so. That's just kind of like black's thing. You very rarely just get to draw cards for nothing. You generally are paying life, and that's what this is. Next is the Celestis Sanctifier. It's a 3/2 human cleric for 2 and a white. If it is neither day nor night, it becomes day. So here we go. We get to talk about another new mechanic. So in Innistrad, night and day matters. This is a werewolf-themed set, hence the Midnight Hunt. The way it works, and you get this kind of reminder card with the paper magic, is essentially if the game starts and it is neither... Oh, I can right-click and get it. Good. So it is neither night or day. Just neither one. So, when the Celestis Sanctifier comes into play, it makes it daytime. So then these rules come into play. And so, there are creatures, not this one, that will be either daybound or nightbound. So if it becomes day, transform all nightbound permanents. That means there's going to be some double-sided cards in this set, which we will get to, that when they're on their nightbound side, as it becomes day, they transform into their daybound. Generally, that's a weaker state, but also some of them have kind of different powers, right? And then If a player casts no spells during their own turn, it becomes dark. It becomes night on the next turn. And then we can right-click on this. So as it becomes night, all the daybound creatures switch over. And permanents enter the battlefield on their nightbound state. And if a player casts at least 2 spells during their own turn, it becomes day on the next turn. So this gives players the ability to kind of control what's happening based on what they do on their turn. And so if it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as the Celestis Sanctifier enters the battlefield. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, look at the top 2 cards of your library and you put one of them into your graveyard. So this means basically as the game state changes, this Sanctifier gives you the ability to kind of look at your deck, look at the top 2 cards, and pick one that you don't want. Maybe you have plenty of land and you don't need land anymore, or whatever. The key here is you don't get a choice. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your graveyard. Which means, like, if you need 2 critters and there's 2 critters, you're going to have to pick one. That's okay. So that's him. Morning Patrol. So this is another one that has another mechanic that is key to the set. So great, we're getting them all out of the way early. So Morning Patrol is 2 and a white for a 2/3 human soldier with vigilance. And it has a disturb cost of 3 and 1 white. What that means is, if it's in the graveyard, you can pay the disturb cost to bring it back transformed. And so you look on the left-hand side here, the Morning Apparition. The Morning Apparition is a 2/1 with flying and vigilance. And it does have an extra piece that says if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So you basically only get 1 shot with this guy. But that's what Disturb is. Basically, you can either play the card first and then kind of get a second go at kind of a higher cost, but you get a second go. So it's almost like you get 2 critters for 1 that you just can't cast at the same time. Or if Morning Patrol gets dumped into your graveyard, at least you can still use it because you can pay that Disturb cost and bring that creature into play. So for example, if you had this guy and you had to choose to put the Morning Patrol into the graveyard, at least you're not losing a dude. You're kind of drawing the Morning Apparition. So there's that situation where it might be useful. Next, No Way Out is 2 and a black. Target opponent discards 2 cards. You create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. And Decayed is another kind of new keyword in this set. With Decayed, a creature with Decayed can't block. And when it attacks, sacrifice it at the end of combat. So essentially, you get a 1-shot attack out of a monster. So it's almost like you get like half of a monster. There's another way to look at it. That's kind of how I see it. Still cool. It's just, they can't block. So you're not making blockers with this. This is all about offense. Now to the uncommons. Root Coil Creeper is a blue and a green. For a 2/2, you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, or you can tap it to add 2 mana of any 1 color, and you can spend this mana only to cast spells from your graveyard, like, for example, Morning Patrol with a Disturb, or a card with a flashback cost. And you can pay a green and a blue, exile Root Coil Creeper, return target card with flashback that I own from exile to my hand. So the key with these flashback cards is they do get exiled, and this Root Coil Creeper gives you the ability to go get some of those cards back. That's pretty impressive. A mana creature for 2 is pretty awesome. So I expect this guy will probably see some play for a while. Especially since you can spend mana to cast spells from the graveyard. Between flashback and disturb and then other effects from previous sets that mess around with things being in the graveyard, that's pretty good. And then the last uncommon is the Scob Wrangler. It's 1 and a blue for a 2/1, and you can tap 3 untapped creatures you control to tap target creature. That is that's a lot, but that ability, that cost, the tap 3 untapped creatures you control, because of the way that is written, you can technically use this guy to, you can tap itself, but you can also tap other creatures, even if they just came into play. because they're not tapping to attack, so they're not subject to summoning sickness. So this is kind of neat, in that if this card's in play and then you play the third creature, you can go to town on starting to tap guys. You also, since this thing doesn't tap to do it, if you have 6 creatures out, you can tap 6 and tap 2. You know, so if you have a lot of tokens out or something like that, this could do some crazy stuff. So that's pretty cool. So now it always hides the mythic or the rare, so you get like that little bit of punch. So let's take a look and see what we got here. The Mask of Gristlebrand. So we got a rare on this one. So this is 1 and 2 black for a legendary artifact equipment. Legendary in Magic the Gathering means that you can only have one of this thing on the battlefield at one time. If you play another one, you have to choose which one you keep. Generally, like 99% of the time, you're going to keep your guy. You're going to hold the extra one as a backup if you have multiples. So equipped creature has flying and lifelink. And whenever equipped creature dies, you may pay X life, where X is its power. If you do, draw X cards. Remember earlier where I said generally when you're drawing cards as a black player, or with black cards, you're paying life. This is kind of that situation. And the equip cost is 3. So the way equipment works is they're kind of like enchantments that are played and kind of attached to creatures. The key here is you pay the 1 and 2 black, and that puts the artifact into play. Then you have to pay an additional 3 colorless mana to equip another creature, and then it gets the benefits of this card. So, for example, if we have the Mask of Gristlebrand in play, and I pay 3 to attach it to this Root Coil Creeper, then it is a 2/2 creature with flying and lifelink. And when it dies, I can pay 2 life, and then draw 2 cards if I want. So it's May, so I don't have to. So that's what that thing does. That's kind of neat. It's pretty cool. All right, so let's move on to the next pack. We got a whole bunch more to go. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so let's go through the commons first. So Soul Guide Gryff is 4 and a white for a 3/4 flyer. When Soul Guide Gryff enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. So if there's something in your opponent's graveyard that has flashback or what was the... I literally just talked about it on the last set. Basically, if it's got an ability in the graveyard, you can go ahead and exile that, which is pretty neat. Candlelit Cavalry. Here we go. Another one of the keywords. So this is a 5/5 for 4 and 1 green. It's a human knight, and it has an ability called Coven. So Coven says, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, Candlelit Cavalry gains trample until end of turn. So this creature, in order for that effect to be in play, this dude has to be in play, and he has a power of 5. Let's say you have another creature with a power of 1, and you have another creature with a power of 3. You now have 3 creatures with different power. That gives this guy trample until the end of turn. It's pretty straightforward. Crawl from the Cellar is 1 black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and then put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target zombie you control, and then it has flashback for 3 and a black. Pretty good. Listen, there's plenty of reasons why you might want to get a creature card from your graveyard into your hand, and being able to put a +1/+1 on a zombie is pretty good. Being able to do that twice is also good. Next is Storm Rider Spirit. It's a 4 and a blue for a 3/3. It has flash, which means you can play it at any time you would play an instant. A lot of times you can play it at the end of your opponent's turn, or you could play it to surprise and block them, and it flies. So this thing has a job, and it does it okay. Unruly Mob is 1 and a white for a 1/1. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. I love the flavor on this, because this is like the Torches and Pitchfork guys, right? And so, like, as people die around them, they get more and more and more mad. This could get out of control. Next is now the uncommons. Now, one thing about MTG Arena, they do give you, occasionally you're just going to get wild cards. This is an uncommon wild card. And so you just get it. And so what you can do with wild cards is you can just redeem them for any uncommon card by just adding the card to your deck. So this is some uncommon that I might need. If you ever want to check in Arena what you have, you just go up here and look. I have 67 uncommon wild cards. So I've got a lot. So this just adds to it. Ominous Roost is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. When Ominous Roost enters the battlefield, or whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, you create a +1/+1 blue bird creature token with flying, and this creature can block only creatures with flying. So basically, this is just you're putting a roost out there, and then as you start casting more and more spells from your graveyard, you also get dudes to go along with it. Pretty cool value. Now let's take a look at the rare. Patrician Geist. So this is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 flyer. Other spirits you control get +1/+1, and spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 colorless mana less to play. Seems pretty okay. You're playing spirits, right? This guy buffs this dude a lot. He comes in as a 4/4, so that's pretty nice. All right, another pack. And if you are watching and you have questions, please stop me, ask the questions. I will answer them as we go. So, this is a common wild card. We're going to see plenty of those. And I am okay with that. I love wild cards. Number one, because it's less that I have to read. But also, it means that I can make it whatever I need to, including I can make it cards from other sets. So that's useful. So, Eccentric Farmer. 2 and a green for a 2/3. When Eccentric Farmer enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. So, I did not have a podcast yesterday, Dracon, so I did not have a thing to do. This is, in fact, the thing that I need to do. So, to mill cards means you take cards off the top of your library and put them into the graveyard. So, so that's what this is. So the idea here is you play this guy, you mill 3, and if one of them is a land, then you can return that to your hand. So it's a decent way to fill your graveyard, but also help you make your land drops, because you can only play 1 land per turn. This helps make sure that you have another land to play, either that turn or on subsequent turns. Next is Snarling Wolf. It is a 1/1 wolf for 1. And you can pay 1 green, or 1 and a green. Snarling Wolf gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and you can only activate that once each turn. This is purely for limited, folks. This is a dude that later on can get, that you can play out on the first turn, but later on you can sink some extra mana into, and he'll get a little bigger. That's all. Nothing to see here. He's cool. That is cool art, though. Unblinking Observer. This thing is super creepy. It's 1 and blue for a 2/1 homunculus. You can add, you can tap to add blue, spend this mana only to play Disturb cost, to pay a Disturb cost, or cast an instant or sorcery spell. There you go. It's creepy. Candle Trap. It's an enchantment. And you pay 1 white. So you enchant it on a creature, and it gives that creature Defender, which means that it can't attack. And you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by that enchanted creature. So basically, it can block, but it doesn't do damage to anything. So all it does is just kind of get in the way and stop dudes. If Coven is if you have 3 creatures with different powers, you can then pay 2 and a white, and then sacrifice Candle Trap to exile the enchanted creature. So that's kind of neat, right? So you can play this early, get rid of an early threat, and then eventually just exile them. The reason that it doesn't get rid of them right away is because they could technically like disenchant or cast a spell to get rid of the Candle Trap, at which point their dude is free to go. So this is a very cool card. On to the uncommons, Cathar's Call. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So it's 2 and a white, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has vigilance. And at the beginning of your end step, it creates a 1/1 white human creature token. That human creature token is pretty hysterical. And then, so this could get kind of out of control. It takes a couple of turns to really get value out of this. Because 3 mana, you really got to like create like 2, maybe your third 1/1 white token to really pay off. Devoted Graphkeeper. It's a white and a blue. This is another guy with a Disturb cost. So when he comes into the battlefield, you mill 2 cards. And whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, tap target creature you don't control, which is actually pretty awesome. And then on the flip side, if you pay the 1, a white, and a blue, he's just a 3/1. And he can only block creatures with flying. But he's a spirit. So he kind of loses some of his cool functionality on his other side. However, you know, he gets a little bit more offense. So that's kind of neat. And the rare. Gisa, Glorious Resurrector. This is going to be for probably Brawl or maybe, you know, Commander. Gisa, Glorious Resurrector is a 4/4 for 2 and 2 black. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead, which is kind of beefy if you think about it. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under your control. They gain Decayed. So we talked about Decayed earlier. Basically, they can't block, and you have to sacrifice them after they attack. So this is a card that you put her down, and as your opponent's creatures die, you just get them back. You get to keep them under your control, which is... that's a pretty awesome effect, so maybe she could be used. She seems okay. And here we go. Bada boom. And as you can see, this one's all lit up, so we don't have to read that one again because it is not new. Shadow Beast Sighting. It's 3 and a green. Create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Just makes a big old dude. You can pay 6 and a green to get it back. You know, the first casting is very efficient. The second one is not, but you get 2 of them, which is pretty okay. And especially in, like, limited. Like, if you're playing in a draft or something like that, having something to spend your mana on towards the end of the game is always great. And 4/4 is nothing to joke about. Organ Hoarder, also very creepy. Did I mention this is a horror set? It's a 3/2 for 3 and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 3 cards of your library. You put 1 of them into your hand and the rest in the graveyard. That is a very powerful effect. You're essentially playing 3 and a blue to get a 3/2 zombie, and then you draw a card. And then you can put the rest of the stuff in the graveyard, which, you know, there's plenty of cards that are okay. I mean, you put the Shadow Beast Sighting in there. I mean, you lose the first casting, but you can get the flashback. So that's really cool. It's creepy, though. Festival Crasher is a 1/3 for 1 and a red. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets a +2/+0. These creatures get out of control fast. Just think about it. You play him, and then, you know, in a couple of turns, you play like 3 in succession, you know, burn spells, or maybe a draw spell or something like that. This guy gets kind of out of control pretty quickly if you've got lots of cheap stuff. And then Bounding Wolf, it's a 3/2 reach, meaning it can block creatures with flying. So you see him like jumping up, biting at a bat. And it also has flash, which means you can play it anytime you would play an instant. So a lot of times you would play this guy. Maybe they attack in with a cheap flyer, and you play this guy down to surprise them, eat the little 1/1 flyer, and then you got a dude for next turn. Village Watch. We got our first day-bound creature. So remember we talked about night versus day. So Village Watch. It's a 4/3 for 4 and a red. That's haste, which means you can attack right away. And so it's day-bound. When it switches to night, so meaning it transforms, wolves and werewolves you control have haste. That is crazy good. That is very, very good. It's a little expensive, but it's still very good. Giving all your creatures haste, because if you build this, you're making a wolf or a werewolf deck. So that's pretty good. Arcane Infusion. Okay, there's a lot to this card. So it's a blue and a red for an instant, meaning you can play it pretty much at any time. You look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So basically, you're paying 2 mana to draw a card, which is great. And you get to choose that 1 card from among the top 4 cards on your deck. That's basically what this does. With that said, it is also an instant card, so it triggers things like Festival Crasher. And so you play that. You bring up 4 cards. Maybe you get another one of these. or you get another instant, like, No Way Out, something like that, and you keep pumping this guy, and you keep getting that value, and it has flashback, so you can do it again. It's a little bit more expensive the next time, but you know what? You got to do something with mana towards the end of the game. So, and the art on this is pretty cool. It's like he's a Ghostbuster. And the red. We got another Patrician guy. So it looks like this game wants me to play Blue Spirits at some point. Let's click again. All right. All new cards here. Duel for Dominance. It's 1 and a green. It's an instant. So it's got Coven. So we're looking for 3 creatures that have different powers. If you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. So you choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. So I'm going to get one of my guys, one of your guys. I'm going to put a +1/+1 counter on the creature I control. And then the chosen creatures fight each other. So basically, I'm going to pay 1 and a green. They're going to fight regardless, which means they're going to deal their power to each other. Which could have them kill each other. But if I have 3 or more creatures with different powers, my guy actually gets bigger. Which means maybe my guy can fight something, take out something bigger, or maybe it can live in a tie. This card is going to do some work. Especially in decks that are going to try to get that Coven. Shipwreck Sifters. It's 1/2. It's a 1/2 for 1 and a blue. When Shipwreck Sifters enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you discard a spirit card or a card with Disturb, put a +1/+1 counter on Shipwreck Sifters. So, again, this is this this gives you, if you're playing a lot of spirits or a lot of cards with Disturb, Shipwreck Sifters enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and then you can discard another card from your hand. So let's say maybe you have a card with a relatively inexpensive Disturb cost. You could discard that, and then the Shipwreck Sifters is it is now all of a sudden a 2/3. And then you can keep doing that as you go. Maybe you play another Shipwreck Sifters and discard another spirit. So there's that. Stuffed Bear. It's 2 mana. You pay 2, and it becomes a 4/4 green bear artifact creature. I love the flavor on this, like the stuffed bear in the corner of the room gets animated. This is neat in that when you don't pay 2 to turn it into a creature, it is not a creature, and thus it's kind of immune to things that like deal damage to or destroy all creatures, which is kind of neat. Next is Ritual Guardian. It's a 3/2 for 2 and a white. And it has Coven at the beginning of combat if you control those 3 creatures. Ritual Guardian gains lifelink until end of turn. It's neat. Lifelink, he gains life equal. So he gains you 3 life every time he swings and deals damage to somebody. That's pretty good. Bird Admirer is another Daybound Nightbounds. 2 and a green for a 1/4 human archer werewolf. That's a mouthful. And when it flips over at nighttime, then it is a 3/5 with reach. I like the flavor on this. But, not an amazing card. Heirloom Mirror. So, it's an artifact. It's 1 and a black. And it has a day and a night side. So you can pay 1. So you can pay 1, tap it and pay a life, discard a card, and draw. Okay. This is a lot. Let's take this one step at a time. Whenever you got a cost here, there's the cost that you pay, and then there is a colon, and then there's the shenanigans that happens if you pay that cost. So the cost is you pay 1, you tap it, you pay 1 life, and you discard a card. If you do those 4 things, you draw a card, then you mill a card, which means you draw a card, then you take a card from your library and put it into your graveyard, and then you put a ritual counter on Heirloom Mirror. You just put a thing on it, right? If it has 3 or more ritual counters on it, remove them and transform it. You can only do this as a sorcery, meaning you can only do it on your turn. If you transform it, it becomes an Inherited Fiend, which is a 4/4 flyer, and you can pay 2 and a black to exile target creature card from her graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on it. Goodness. My gosh, that is a lot. That is a lot of text on this card. Basically, the mirror itself just does a lot of stuff. It does help you discard cards, which is nice. It helps you, you're putting, every time you use it, you're putting cards into the graveyard, you're drawing cards, etc. But eventually you get a pretty okay payoff in a 4/4 guide. I think this is kind of neat. And then the Blood Tithe Collector. It's 4 and a black for a 3/4 Vampire Noble that flies. And when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, each opponent discards a card. Fair enough. It is worth mentioning, when it says lost life, combat damage from creatures does cause life loss. There used to be some confusion about that when they started using this term, and they thought that maybe it was only cards that say you lose life. That's not the case. And now here's the rare. Dire Strain Rampage. All right, here we go. 1, a red and a green. There's a lot of text here, so bear with me. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. Okay. If a land was destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Otherwise, its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Basically here, there's 2 ways this is going to go down. You're either going to target this is encouraging you to target your own stuff. Okay? You can use it as a way to destroy artifacts and enchantments that your opponent controls in a pinch. But it does give them the ability to go get a land card. So there's situations where that might not be great. But if you use it on yourself, for example, maybe on a given turn, you blow up one of your lands, preferably one that you tapped for mana to turn into this thing. Then you can go get 2 more basic land cards. So maybe you blow up a forest to go get a forest and a mountain, or something like that. And if you destroy an artifact, maybe you destroy an artifact that you want to be in the graveyard now, or something like that. You can do that, and then you can go get a land. So that's kind of neat. And that's flashback for 3, a green, and a red. What's kind of interesting is these kind of work pretty well together, right? So if you blow up a land to go get 2, that does get you that much closer to being able to cast the flashback. So these are definitely going to get used. And I think they are. I think they're fun, especially when you think about the crazy wolves just going nuts. I just love the flavor on that. All right, next pack. Whew. All right, and here we go. I just earned my rare there. Okay, so Revenge of the Drowned, 3 and a blue. Target creature's owner puts it on the bottom of their library, and you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. If you put an opponent's creature on the bottom of their library, it's not the same as killing it. Let me put myself out of the way here, because I'm like covering up the card. Let's move me a little bit. So, whoop. Uh-oh. Whoops. I lost my pack. Well, what are you going to do, folks? Let's open another one. All right. Got another common wild card. We talked about the Snarling Wolf already. Evolving Wilds. These are very common. They've been reprinted all the time. If you're collecting paper Magic, I would encourage you to find a play set of these and just never put them away. Put them in a box somewhere of your playable commons and uncommons. These are going to just find their way into just about every standard, so you'll always be able to play them. They're just always around. So I would just find a play set and grab them. They're not worth a lot, so just, grab them where you can and just keep them there. Basically, it comes into play. You can tap it and sacrifice it and search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Basically, this gives you the opportunity to go get whatever land you specifically need. You just don't get to use it that same turn. That's it. But this is a really cool... I love the art on this. So, like I said, if you're playing Paper Magic, one of your first goals should be to try and get 4 of these to put into the collection and put it in your playable commons and uncommons box, because you never know when you're going to need some of these. More Corrupt Behemoth. Goodness gracious, that thing is gross. You pay 4 and a black for a 7/6 with Menace, which means it can't be blocked by one dude. Because one dude's not blocking that. This is not happening. That thing is giant and crazy. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature or pay an additional 1 and a black. There you go. So it is 5 and 2 black, or you sacrifice a creature. If you're doing it right, this card is like making you do something. If you are wanting to play this card, maybe, you know, in a commander deck or something like that, that's fine. This is a zombie giant. I mean, he's a big body, and Menace is an awesome ability because they're going to have to block it with 2 things, which means, like, even if you don't get your damage through, you're still going to hit him with 7 power. That's going to kill a lot of stuff. Maybe even 2 things if they have to drop a couple chump blockers on it. That's awesome. But what you want to do is you don't want to pay this mana cost unless you have to. You really want to sacrifice something that you want in the graveyard. You've got to have a creature that you're cool if it dies, or that you can just play again because it has Disturb or something like that. So that's the More Corrupt Behemoth. Consider. It's 1 blue for an instant. You look at the top card of your library. You may put that into your graveyard and then draw a card. So this is kind of neat. Basically, you pay 1 blue. You look at the top card. If it's a card you want, leave it there, buddy. Then you can draw it. Or, if it's a card you don't want, or even better, if it's a card that you want in your graveyard, you can put it there. And then you draw the next card. Every time they print a 1-mana instant, do junk in the top of your library, and then draw, they regret it. This is a new one. I love I really dig the neat steampunk goggles on this one. This is another one. While this set is out, if you're playing Paper Magic, grab 4 of these. Honestly, grab as many of them as you can. Every time they print these, they get out of hand, especially in older formats. I bet you could pick a bunch of these up for nothing, and in a couple years, you'd probably be able to trade them away for, rares. I'm not even joking. It's worth it's worth shuffling them in a box, especially if you go to drafts on Fridays or something like that. Moon Silver Key. I love the art on this. So it's an artifact, costs 2. You can pay 1 and sacrifice it. Search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card. Reveal it and put it to your hand. This is actually cool. This is going to see use a lot in Commander. Because in Commander, you have generally, people play all sorts of artifacts that you can tap for mana. And this lets you go get one of those. So it's kind of like an Evolving Wilds, sort of. But it not only does it include basic lands, but you can also go get, like, if it's something that a Mana Crypt, if you're playing with, like, power, or, any of the tap for the filter artifacts or anything like that. I can't come up with names of them off the top of my head, but that'll be neat. It is what it is as far as like standard or whatever. This isn't going to see play, but this is kind of just a neat thing, especially if you're playing Paper Magic. I would try and grab some of these. Thermo Alchemist. This thing looks so cool. It's a 1 and a red for a 0/3 defender. Meaning you can't attack with it, but you're never going to do so. You can tap it to deal 1 damage to each opponent, which means if you're playing a multiplayer game, this thing gets out of hand. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you untap him. So, let's say you're going to play Consider. You tap him, shoot your opponent. Consider, he untaps. Tap him again. Maybe you draw another Consider off of this thing. Do it again. Basically, you're going to want to pay attention to this guy, and as you get ready to cast spells, you're going to want to tap and shoot your opponent. That gives you a lot of extra value off this guy. If they don't deal with him, and you have a handful of instant and sorcery spells, he will do way more damage than 1 and a red should allow him to do. Also, look at that art. Look at those guns. This is just so cool. He looks like a bad mamma jamma, as they call them. And the rare, Tovalord, the Dire Overlord. There's a lot of text. I gotta take a drink. I'm gonna say up front, this guy is good. Okay? So, he's a 3/3 legendary creature, human werewolf. That costs 1 a red and a green. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. All on its own, that's awesome. Because he is a werewolf. So when he does damage, he draws a card. You swing in with him and a snarling wolf, you draw 2 cards, whatever. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night. So he can turn it into night. All on his own. Which is something that is kind of important, right? Because normally you can only make it night if you cast no spells on your turn. This guy kind of overrides some of that. And then you transform any number of human werewolves you control. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then you could pay X, a red and a green, and target wolf or werewolf you control gets +X/+0 and gets trample. So you can just dump all of your mana into this guy and have one of your guys go crazy. That's pretty awesome. Or you could pay a red and a green twice to give 2 big guys trample. Because remember, you don't have to tap him. You can also target him because he is a werewolf. There's just a lot of options for this guy. I would say this. You will be seeing a lot of this guy if you go to tournaments. Especially like Friday Night Magic. This guy seems like a Friday Night Magic. Whenever those start happening again, this seems like just perfect for that environment because he's just big and does some damage. Whew. He is. There's a lot to this guy. Get used to him. All right, let's go to the next pack. He is so cool. He is so cool. Hey, look at that. We're getting to the point where we have not seen a lot of these. We've seen a lot of these cards. Dawnheart Rejuvenator is 3 and a green for a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. That is very straightforward. You just gain 3 life. And you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Here you go. This is a cool dude. I think that there are... I think that, like in limited formats, this will be cool. If you're making a Warlock deck for casual, this will be fine. He's neat. He's not going to do anything in like standard or anything like that, unless I'm missing something completely and we like to need Warlocks. But he's a dude. Olivia's Midnight Ambush. It's 1 and a black. Instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. If it's night, that creature gets -13/-13 until end of turn itself instead. Hey, yo. All right, so we want to talk about day and night mattering. This is a big deal. If it is nighttime, you are going to kill just about every creature in the game. I mean, 13/13, it has to be just... If you're fighting a thing that's bigger than 13/13, you probably lost anyway. So this is going to get just about anything meaningful. And even if it's daytime, -2/-2 is still going to put the hurt on things. So I dig this card a lot. I suspect we will see much of it. Vampire Socialite. I have a feeling this was in that pack that was missed. It's a black and a green, black and a red for a 2/2 with Menace. Talked about Menace before. A lot of text here, but it's pretty straightforward. When Vampire Socialite enters the battlefield, and if an opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 on each other vampire you control. As long as an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Okay. This thing it doesn't just passively make vampires bigger. It's not like it's a Anthem or something like this. This makes them bigger and excuse me. And then if you deal a little bit of damage to your opponent, then play your vampires. They will continue to get larger. This guy, in 2 months, we have a vampire set, like an Innistrad vampire set coming. I suspect Vampire Socialite will be a part of that deck. Let's check the rare. Curse of Leeches. Now, curses are artifacts that you cast on your opponents. It's really interesting about this. So, Curse of Leeches, 2 and a black. You enchant player. As this permanent transforms into Curse of Leeches, attach it to a player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, they lose life and gain 1 life. And you gain 1 life. And it's day bound. So what's interesting is when it becomes night, it turns into a 4/4 lifelink. Which is crazy. And then when it becomes day again, you transfer it back into Curse of Leeches and it attacks to the player. Or attaches to the player. So it's going to be interesting because you can't do much about it when it's a curse if you don't have artifact destruction, or enchantment destruction rather. It can be dealt with, however, as a creature. So this is kind of interesting. I'll be interested to see whether or not this gets played or not. And I got an uncommon wild card. All right. Here we go. Earn myself another uncommon wild card. These are going wild. Got a common one. Burn the Accursed. Look at that. That werewolf is having a rough day. 4 and a red. Burn the Accursed deals 5 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. If the creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Look, man, sometimes you just need to make a critter go away. You just don't want that disturb. You don't want that flashback. You don't want any of this nonsense. And this also has the advantage of whacking at your opponent. And you know what? If your opponent's at 2, this will kill them all the same. I dig it. It's 5 mana for 7 damage across 2 different targets and the exile. This is definitely... We're going to be seeing this. Geistwave. 1 and a blue. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you control that permanent, draw a card. Listen, there's going to be plenty of circumstances where you're going to want to bounce your own stuff to your hand. Maybe you're trying to protect something from a removal spell. Maybe there's a card that you just want to put back in your hand because it has a cool ability when it comes into play. And so you can bounce your opponent's stuff and get like an advantage. Maybe they play a big creature or they pay a creature and they sacrifice something. You can bounce it back. So in that case, it's good. But if you do it to your own stuff, you get to draw a card. Makes the choices interesting. Brimstone Vandal. It's 2 and a red for a 2/3 with Menace. We talked about that. If it is neither day nor night, it becomes day as Brimstone Vandal enters the battlefield. Whether day becomes night or night becomes day, Brimstone Vandal deals 1 damage to each opponent. This guy is another one of those. If you don't pay attention to this guy, if they don't handle him, he's going to do 3 or 4 damage over the course of a game if you're just kind of flipping stuff around. And that adds up because you're only paying 3 for this guy. And he's going to swing. And he's got Menace. So I think this guy is going to do more damage than he's supposed to. The Bereaved Survivor is a 2 and a white for a 2/1. Whenever another creature you control dies, transform it. That is not a hard thing to do. When you do that, it becomes Dauntless Avenger. I like the story on this, right? Whenever Dauntless Avenger attacks, return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. That is bananas, folks. It costs a lot to get it set up. You got to play 2 and a white, and you got a creature you control has to die. But if you have this thing and it's attacking, goodness gracious. And then Dreadhound, that is a nasty looking dog. It's 4 and 2 black for a 6/6. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. Whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from a library, each opponent loses 1 life. This is going to do some stupid stuff. You put them into play, you mill 3 cards. If there's 2 creatures in that pile, your opponent's going to lose 2 life right off the bat. And there are plenty of circumstances where you can just start sacrificing a bunch of dudes. If your opponent's at like 5 life and you have a thing that lets you sacrifice creatures and he's in play, just sacrifice a bunch of guys and just nuke your opponent right from the top. This thing, anytime you see whenever a creature dies or a creature card, like anytime you see either of those things paired with each opponent loses 1 life, you got to watch out for it. This guy will be a win condition in some deck. Check out the rare. Slogerk the Overslime. They're just making me read books. This is just disrespectful. All right, so it's a 3/3 for 1, a green and a blue legendary creature. Fun fact, this guy could be a commander for those formats. So he's got trample. Fair. Whenever a land card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on Slogerk. Plenty of reasons you would do that. Evolving Wilds is a good one, right? Because that's a land. It goes into the graveyard when you sacrifice it to go get another one. You remove 3 +1/+1 counters from Slogerk, and you can return it to its owner's hand. And when it leaves the battlefield, return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Excuse. There's a lot to this guy. This guy feels like a dude that was built for Brawl or Commander, where you can really abuse that land cards going into the graveyard, right? So I'll be interested to see where that goes. This guy is supposed to get... I presume that when you build it right, this guy's going to get huge and just trample all over dudes. Let's go. Next pack. Here we go. Startle. 1 in a blue. Target creature gets -2/-0 until end of turn. You get a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. Draw a card. This is a good one. This is a neat little combat trick. Your opponent swings in. You can play this as part, in response to them declaring that attacker. It's going to do 2 less damage, which if it only has 2 power, that means it doesn't do anything. Which means maybe you could even block it. If you have a guy that can deal damage, you can get like a really nice block on that and kill them. And then you get a 2/2 Decayed zombie token, which is great. And then you can draw, and then you get to draw a card, which will replace it. I love this card. I think this is really cool. I also love the flavor of it. They're fishing, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's a zombie arm. Arden Elementalist is 3 in a red for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Look, sometimes you just want to get your stuff back into your hand. That's cool. I love the art on this. I'd love to see this in foil. Harvest Tide Sentry is 1 and a green for a 3/1. There we go. We got more Coven. At the beginning of combat, if you control 3 or more with different powers, it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn. Not the best Coven ability, but it's got a power of 3. So depending on how the rest of your creatures are, this could add up pretty well. Stromkirk Blood Thief, it's 2 and a black for a 2/2. At the beginning of your end step, if your opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target vampire you control, which could be this one. Remember, damage causes a loss of life. This could get pretty out of control. And since you can spread the love and it's not just this guy, that's actually kind of neat. A little expensive. I do like the art, though. Here's the boy right here. Delver of Secrets. I don't know if they were smart printing this guy. I just don't know. Delver of Secrets is a 1/1 for 1 blue, right? Who cares? It's just a 1/1. Here's the deal. If at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library, you may reveal it. If an instant or sorcery card was revealed this way, transform Delver of Secrets. Then it turns into Insectile Aberration. Yes, this card is based entirely on the fly. And it becomes a 3/2 flyer. So, folks, here's what they do with this guy. Okay? You play him with a bunch of, like, cheap little burn spells and cheap little draw spells. And you make sure that you have sorceries and instants. And then you play him turn 1. And then turn 2, you reveal your instant or sorcery. And then he turns into a 3/2 that he can start attacking on turn 2. With like 3 power, flying. It's absolutely bananas. Yeah. Get this guy while the getting is good. Enjoy it if you like playing blue-red. Because he is bananas. And it's the fly. Straight up, it's the fly. So if you want to imagine the original actor, you can totally do that, although he's a little creepy, right? Hallowed Respite, white and blue. sorcery, exile target non-legendary creature, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it entered under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Otherwise, tap it. Okay. What we call these are the reason we would use these effects is for our guys by exiling it and then returning it to battle. If maybe it has an ability that takes effect when it comes into play. We get that ability again, right? If it was our critter, we get a +1/+1 counter, so it gets bigger. If it's an opponent's, they tap it, which means it stops a blocker. Maybe there are some creatures that have real downsides when they come into play. You know, maybe they have to sacrifice something, or maybe they lose life. Casting this, exiling and returning something that maybe makes them sacrifice a creature or pay life, and then tapping it so they don't get to use it is pretty powerful. And then it's got a pretty inexpensive flashback too. One, a white and a blue, so you can you could use it twice in one turn if you really needed to. Lots of flexibility on that. I really dig this. White and blue are just really, they're doing really good this set, I think. Here we go. Next pack. We are cruising along. All right, here we go. Only one new card this set so far. Hedgewigs marked 1 white for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. It's a little bit bigger. Equipped creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 4 or greater. There are some decks that just have one like giant thing. And this equipment protects that. Don't mind my son in the background making noise. He's watching a YouTuber play Plants vs. Zombies. I don't know. So this is just a neat, it's just a dude. Let's check the rare. Whoa, we got a mythic, and it's a Planeswalker. Okay, so there's a lot of text on this. Here's how Planeswalkers work for a beginner. Because, man, Planeswalkers are insane, and I'll probably need to do a separate video just to talk about Planeswalkers. In fact, I probably will. But in a nutshell, Planeswalkers work like this. The shield on the bottom, the shield on the bottom right-hand side, that's their loyalty counters. They come into play with that many. And then if you look at their text box, you can see on the left-hand side, there's pluses and minuses, etc. Every turn, you can use one of their abilities, okay? So if you use the one that says +1, you add a loyalty counter, meaning it would go to 5 from 5 to 6, and then you do whatever that ability is. So for +1, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all land cards revealed this way into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard. That's pretty powerful in and of itself, depending on what you're doing with your deck. Or you can pay 0, just leave it at 5. Put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. That is insane, depending on the right situation. -3, you can create a green tree folk creature token with reach, and this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. And if you manage to get it up to 8 loyalty tokens and -8, you return all permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand, and you get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. An emblem is more or less, you get a thing that cannot be destroyed that just changes the rules for you for a while. And so for the rest of that game, you have no maximum hand size. Normally it's 7. Now, one thing about Planeswalkers is your opponent can attack them. Meaning, when they attack, they can decide to attack you or the Planeswalker. And if they deal damage in the form of loyalty counters. So that's what this guy does. This thing, land matters to this guy. I'll tell you what. So that is Ren and 7. That's the pack. Let's go. Love getting mythics. I'll tell you what. All right, here we go. Famish Foragers, 3 in a red for a 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, and if an opponent lost life this turn, add 3 red. So here's what's crazy about this, right? If an opponent lost life this turn, you do have to pay 4 mana to get it, but the net cost is only 1, which is very inexpensive because you can use that mana to play another creature. Imagine, you deal damage and then you can pay 4 and get 3 back and kind of just chain out a few of these guys. You absolutely could. Or you could pay that 3 mana to discard a card and draw a card. So this thing is neat. I suspect that there will be some shenanigans with this, because anytime you can play a thing and your opponent losing life is not a real cost, right? Like, that's not a big deal. I have a feeling we'll see this. This is something to keep your eye on, because I think this is kind of neat. Clarion Cathars is 3. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but whatever. It's 3 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 white human token. So it's 4, and you get 4 power worth of dudes, which is cool. This is very cool. I mean, it's not going to change the world, but it is efficient. Return to nature. 1 and a green. Choose 1. Destroy an artifact. Destroy an enchantment. Exile target card from a graveyard. This is another one of those cards that is just going to be around, and you need sideboard cards, especially if you're playing at a Friday Night Magic, to deal with different issues. This is one. So, and especially when you're dealing with with a bunch of sets that maybe have graveyard stuff, I could probably even get behind main deck in 1 or 2 of these. I'm not even joking, because there's going to be a lot of stuff to hit. Storm Skrillex. It's a Drake horror. No wonder. Look at that thing. 3 a blue and a red for a 2/4 flyer, which is cool in and of itself. Instant and sorcery spells you cast are 1 less. It's worth mentioning that if it only costs 1 red or 1 blue, this doesn't do anything to it. It's simply reducing the colorless cost, which is still good, right? I mean, there are plenty of spells that cost 1 and a blue or 1 and a red that are just better as blue or red. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, the Storm Skrillex gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Remember, I told you things can get out of hand? It gets even more out of hand when those spells get cheaper. And he flies, so it's harder to block him. This guy's going to be crazy. It's a little expensive, but that's okay. This guy will win you some games. Contortionist Troop. X and a green. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So you pay 5 and a green, it's a 5/5. Then with Coven, at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Your end step is the end of your turn. So this means as long as you have 3 dudes that have different powers, you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. One thing you have to be really careful about that, though, is you need to make sure that you maintain the balance so you don't lose Coven. And that's going to make it kind of interesting. I think that's kind of flavorfully, like, they're contortionists, right? So they have to be, like, really careful not to, like, tie themselves up in a knot. And you can super easily do that because maybe you just want to make something bigger, and all of a sudden you have 2 4/4s and a 2/2, and you lose Coven. So that's something to think about with this guy. And this is not a May ability either. You must add those +1/+1. So you could theoretically ruin everything. So, something to keep in mind. And here's the rare. Vadrik Astral Archmage. That's some really awesome art. It's 1 and a blue and a red for a 1/2. If it is neither day nor night, it becomes day. Instant sorcery spells, you cast X less to cast, where X is his power. Woo. And then every time day becomes night or night becomes day, you put a +1/+1 counter on him. Hello. This guy can get a little out of control. I think that is very, very neat. I also just love the artwork on that. All right, let's see what we got next. Here we go. All right. Pestilent Wolf. 1 and a green for a 2/2. If you pay 2 and a green, it gets Death Touch. It's a nice little guy. Nothing going to change the world. Bait Hook Angler. It's 1 and a blue for a 2/1. It has a disturb of 1 and a blue. And if you do that, you get a 1/2 horror. That is flying. It's a spirit, rather. And again, if it would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it. This is one of those ones, if this guy gets sent out into the graveyard because of some other effect, you still get a 1/2 flyer for 2, which isn't bad. Drowned Amalgam, it's 4 and a blue for a 3/6. When it enters the battlefield, target player mills 3. That's relevant because there might be some circumstances where you're trying to mill your opponent. And you pay 2 and a blue. Drowned Amalgam can't be blocked this turn. Again, this guy's not going to change the world anywhere. You're probably going to be milling yourself. The big one is you can pay 2 and a blue, and you can just swing in for 3 every turn, and he can't be blocked. That, at least like in limited and draft, things like that, that's going to make a pretty big difference. Larder Zombie, it's a 1/3 for 1. It's a defender. You can tap 3 untapped creatures you control to look at the top card of your library, and you can put it into your graveyard. Truthfully, a 1/3 defender for 1 is not bad. It's just a wall, and walls are okay. But the ability to, at the end of your turn, or at the end of your opponent's turn, tapping 3 creatures to look at the top card of your library and maybe putting it into your graveyard, that's decent filtering, meaning you can kind of have a little bit more control over what is at the top of your library when you draw. This guy will put in some work. It's also a zombie, and who knows? Zombies might be great. Maybe. Into the uncommons. Arguably the most I want this on a playmat of the entire set is Fading Hope. It's 1 blue, return target creature to its owner's hand. If its mana value is 3 or less, scry 1. This is encouraging you to play this early. Because then you get, you bounce your opponent's 1-drop or 2-drop. You get, that kind of extra value out of them kind of wasting their turn, and then you get to scry 1, which means you get to look at the top. You get to look at the top card, and either put it back or put it on the bottom of your library. So, and the art on this is just absolutely fantastic. Whew, I love it. Dryad's Revival. 2 and a green, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Flashback 4 and a green, do it again. Sure. Right? Never know, there might be a reason to do that. Here we go. This is my girl right here. I've been hoping to pull this one. 1, a green and 2 white for a 4/4, legendary creature, Angel. She has flying and trample. Humans you control get +1/+1. And whenever she attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, which remember, she's a creature. She's got a power of 4. You can look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a human card from among them, and put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Look at that. That is pretty okay. And the art on this one, I would like this on a playmat also. But that was another mythic rare. Thank you, RNG. That is, in fact, a very nice card, Dracon. I like that. All right, so we got ourselves another common wild card. I'm a fan. Purifying Dragon. Here we go, Dracon. We got a dragon for you, buddy. 3 and 2 red for a 4/3 flying dragon. Whenever Purifying Dragon attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature defending player controls. If that creature is a zombie, it deals 2 damage to it instead. So if zombies get wild, we got a dragon to help deal with it. Listen, 5 mana for a 4/3 flyer is great in and of itself. The fact that it's going to fly and potentially blow up some of your opponent's stuff, I think is also pretty great. And the art on this, also pretty cool. And how about this, Dracon? It is only an uncommon, which means it shouldn't be all that hard to find. Borrowed Time, 2 and a white. When Borrowed Time enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Borrowed Time leaves the battlefield. All right, there's always a ton of these in every set, so let me take a second to talk about these. Again, I should probably do a whole video just on what these mean. Basically, this is an enchantment. You put it into play, you target a permanent that your opponent controls that is not a land. That would be a creature, a planeswalker, another enchantment, or an artifact. Anything that is not a land. And basically, you put it... Oh. Crap. I clicked again. If it's not a land, you put it underneath, right? And until that enchantment is destroyed, that thing is essentially out of play. It is, it's kind of removal-y. It's not perfect removal, but white really doesn't have a lot of answers to things. like Planeswalkers. So that does give you kind of an answer to it, right? Albeit a temporary one, but your opponent has to destroy that thing, so something to think about. And I lost the rare because I clicked again because I am a fool. I have a ton more packs to do. I'm not even going to be able to do them all tonight. I don't think. Although I think these are going to start going a little bit faster. Here we go. Electric Revelation. This card is bananas looking. 2 and a red for an instant as additional cost to cast the spell. Discard a card and then draw 2 cards. Listen, red loves to put cards in the graveyard. That's just what you do. This is great if you're doing it late game. You can dump a land that you don't need, or you can dump a card that has flashback, whatever. And then you draw 2 cards. And this also has flashback. So this is going to be lots of, you want to set this up right. So when you're building your deck, you kind of want to make sure that you have a decent number of cards with flashback to make this work. But you can also pitch a land if you don't need them. You don't generally cast these early unless you have something to put in the graveyard that you want there. But it is a great excuse to put stuff into the graveyard, no doubt about that. And I did not... this one we did not do. So this one must have been in a pack that I missed. So it's a 1, a green, and a white for a 3/3 with Vigilance at the beginning of combat. If you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Pretty cool dude. A little half of an anthem, meaning all your creatures get an effect. And it's a power of 3. So this guy plus Sigarda, it's a 3 and a 4. That'll work. And Cathartic Pyre, 1 and a red. Choose one. It deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or discard 2 cards, then draw up to that many. This card will see play, 100%. 3 damage to creatures or planeswalkers. I mean, this will kill these guys nice and dead. And the ability to discard 2 and then draw 2. It's pretty good. Let's see our rare this time. And we got a wild card. Sometimes it'll just give you the wild card, and I am A-okay with that. Let's open another pack. All right, Eaten Alive. 1 black. As additional cost to play this spell, sacrifice a creature or pay 3 and a black. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Now, again, you want to sacrifice a creature. Like when you're playing this, you want to make sure that you are, kind of building yourself and putting yourself in a situation that you can sacrifice a creature, and get something out of it. With that said, 3 and 2 black is a lot, but exiling a creature or a planeswalker so they can't be returned back from the graveyard is also not bad. Component Collector, this is another one of those freaking eyeball monsters. It's 2 and a blue for a 1/4. If it is neither day or night, it becomes day. And whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you may tap or untap target non-land permanent. This guy's just going to make a mess. Especially, being able to untap your own stuff, tap down your opponent's guys. This guy's just going to make a mess of things, and also these creepy eye monsters. Howl of the Hunt, 2 and a green from an enchantment. It's an aura, so you enchant creature. When Howl of the Hunt enters the battlefield, if enchanted creature is a wolf or werewolf, untap it. Then enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has Vigilance. Also, this has Flash. So, listen, if you've already attacked with your werewolf, you drop this down, you untap your werewolf, and it gets bigger. You're going to catch some opponents off guard with that one. Flesh Taker, this is also probably the creepiest looking card in the set. It's a white and a black for a 2/2. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, you gain +1 life, and you scry 1. So, for example, if you sacrifice a creature for this thing, you gain 1 life and scry 1. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice another creature to give this guy a +2/+2. This thing could get out of control if you're sacrificing lots of stuff. And let's check the rare. Hey, we got another Slogerk, the Overslime. Next pack. All right, here we go. Flare of Faith. Target. It's 1 and a white. Target creature gets +2/+2. If it's a human, it gets +3/+3 and gains indestructible until the end of turn. That is very flavorful considering this set. Plummet. you're just going to pay 1 and a green to destroy a creature with flying. This is one of those like sideboard cards, like edge inclusions, depends on if there's lots of stuff that flies, whatever. Rite of Oblivion, white and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost, this spell, sacrifice a non-land permanent and exile target non-land permanent. Listen, I want to pay 2 mana, you know, a white and a black, and sacrifice my cheap dude to exile your really expensive dude. I'll make that trade, and it's got flashback. So yeah, it's pretty. And I love the art on this. And Mysterious Tome, 2 and a blue. You can pay 2 and tap it, draw a card, transform the Mysterious Tome, and it turns into a Chilling Chronicle, which you can pay 1 and tap target non-land permanent and then transform it. So it's an open book, it's a closed book, and it kind of cycles back and forth between those 2 abilities. I think this card is kind of cool. This is one of those artifacts that, like in a limited game, it kind of gets out of control if you've got extra mana, because you can just kind of mess around every turn and just do stuff. And let's check the rare. Another Gisa, Glorious Resurrector. We talked about her in the beginning. And boom. Oh, we just got ourselves. So as it goes up on those dials, I keep getting those, the extra wild cards. I'm up to 16 mythic rares, wild cards. So all our commons are repeats. Vivisection, yikes, is 3 and a blue. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 3 cards. Man, there's plenty of stuff that you would want to sacrifice that you'd be happy to. And drawing 3 cards for 4 mana and a thing you wanted dead. Chef kiss. Hungry for more. Black and a red. You create a 3/1 black and red vampire creature token with trample, lifelink, and haste, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So basically, you make a really good dude. You know what this is? No joke. This is just a vampire freaking rolling thunder. This is ball lightning, but it's a vampire, and I am okay with that. I'm paying a black and a red to get a 3/1 haste, trample, lifelink, so I'm just going to throw it at you, and at the very least, I'm gaining 3 life, probably killing a guy, and then it's got flashback. That is really good. That is really good. Let's check the rare. Wake to Slaughter. Oof. All right, 3, a black and a red. Choose up to 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. An opponent chooses one of them. Return that card to your hand. Return the other to the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. Okay, so this is going to be one of the wild ones. Anytime you give your opponent the choice, when you're kind of playing this in your hand, you're going to think, oh, I'm going to get my 2 most crazy awesome guys. Remember that your opponent is always, you have to assume they're always going to make the best choice for themselves. And so when you are choosing your creature cards, make sure that you don't make it lopsided, because you know they're just going to give you, they're going to make the right decision for them. But there's some deck construction stuff where you can just dump some guys into your graveyard. And if you get 2 really big things, and then for 5 mana, you can throw one of them at their face. There's some ways you could really take advantage of this, which is actually really kind of neat. You just got to be very careful with what you choose and when you cast this. And remember, they don't, if you only give them 1 creature, like it says up to 2 target creatures. So if you only get 1, they choose that 1 and it goes into your hand. You really want to get 2, so you get at the very least 1 of them onto the field, so that it gains haste, and then you can attack with it right away. Next pack. Bunch of cards. Cathar Commandos, a 3/1 with flash. We talked about that before for 1 and a white. You can pay 1, sacrifice it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Cool. Abandon the Post. 1 and a red. Up to 2 target creatures can't block. I like the flavor on this. This is a great way, like in a limited game or whatever, to just make it so your dude, their dudes can't block you and sneak through that last little bit of damage. This is going to be one of those ones you play on like turn 3 or turn 4 and get some damage, and then they're going to forget you have it in your graveyard, and you're going to play it on like turn 10 and just sneak through the win. Next is Tireless Hauler. The Daybound side is 4 and a green for a 4/5, and it turns to night. It's a 6/6 with Vigilance. I imagine that that's what this really big guy would turn into. Just this big hulking just monster. Faithful Mending. White and a blue. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Cool. If blue-white control is a thing, that's a control decks are decks that kind of, they're slow and controlling, meaning they really prevent their opponent's strategy from working. They disrupt them. This is one of those cards that would go into that kind of a deck. Because gaining 2 life, drawing 2 cards, discarding cards. I mean, and it's got cheap flashback. This is a pretty good one. Then Firmament Sage, 3 and a blue for a 2/3. Turns it into day, and whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, draw a card. That is bananas. We got a Mythic Dragon here for you, Dracon. It's 3 and 1 red for a 4/4. Whenever you cast a spell, you may discard your hand. If you drew, draw a card for each of that spell's colors. When Moonveil Regent dies, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Oof. That is, this guy is asking to be played like in a 5-color commander deck, but you definitely get some fun stuff. You do some pretty fun stuff, even if you're playing mono red and you have an empty hand. Because every time you play a spell and do an empty hand, you still draw 1. You discard your hand of nothing. And the art on this also. This is one of those ones that could also be a really cool playmat. Next back. Whew. All right. Falcon Wrath Perforator. It's a 1 and a red for a 2/1. Whenever Falcon Wrath Perforator attacks, it deals 1 damage to defending player. Raise the F. I mean, this is just a dude. But so the way these work is it essentially is a 3-power creature, right? So you're attacking, and it automatically deals the damage to the player, even if it's blocked and dies. But if it's attacking unblocked, you get 3 damage out of it, which is pretty cool. Raise the Effigy. 1 red. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact or target attacking creature. Gets +2/+2 till end of turn. It's kind of neat. This will see some use various places. Red doesn't do a lot of destroying enchantments. That is one thing that is for sure. Outland Liberator is 1 and a green for a 2/2. You can sacrifice it to destroy target artifact or enchantment, which is great utility. Plenty of reasons to want to destroy those. Excuse me, if it turns night, this guy becomes a 3/3, and whenever it attacks, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment the defending player controls, or you can sacrifice it also. This is pretty cool. Frenzied Trap Breaker. I like that guy. This is the I Hate Enchantments card. And Champion of the Perished. Here we go. It's a 1/1 zombie for 1 black. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of the Perished. Let's get another one out. And we got another uncommon wild. Here we go. Lunarch Veteran. It's a 1/1 for 1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. But it also has a disturb cost, so once he dies, you pay 1 and a white, and you get a 1/1 flyer. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So, next is Defend the Celestis. It's an uncommon. So with this one, so you're paying 2 and 2 green to distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures you control. What's really cool about this is you can use this to turn on Coven. So if you're building a deck that plays Coven and needs that, this really helps you make sure that your dudes balance out correctly. So I really like the way this is designed. You can put, 2 on one, 1 on another. You can put 1 on each if you just want to keep them all the same. So I really kind of dig this. And I think the art on it's pretty cool too. Mystic Skull, it's 2 mana. Keep in mind, this is actually an artifact that has a mana ability. So you can pay 1 and add 1 mana of any color. This kind of lets you filter the mana you have into something else, so it's not all that great, but you can pay 5 and transform it to a 5/6 monstrosity, and lands you control have add 1 mana of any color, which basically, that's the big one. This one helps a lot. And here we go. The Celestis. Okay, there's a lot of text here. And I think we're going to stop after this one and come back and open some more maybe tomorrow. So this costs 3. If it is neither day nor night, it becomes day as the Celestis enters the battlefield. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, which is cool. Then you can pay 3. If it is night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. So basically, you can pay 3 to manually change day or night. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain 1 life. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So this gives you the ability, while it is in play, to directly manipulate the day or night. You can change it yourself. And whenever it changes, this gives you the ability to gain a life and draw a card and discard. So that's pretty cool. So there we go. We just opened a whole bunch of packs. I'm going to finish this up tomorrow on our stream. We'll do a special Friday edition of MTG Arena Thursday on Friday. And we will open the rest of these packs, which I got through 18 of them. But tomorrow, I suspect we will not have many more to go through because we've opened a bunch. So everybody, have yourself a great night. We will see you in about an hour and 15 minutes for the EFG show with myself and Jeff Walker from the Frozen North. You'll have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.